Last year, we worked on a very large construction litigation. It was a very complex litigation, $1 million job, and the timelines were pretty tight. So getting through that, you're looking at utilising every tool possible. We used active learning, using the coding data to input into the algorithms to try to prioritise relevant documents, so end clients were getting their insights into the material faster, and also for propagations, for copying and coding across. We've all had those emails where you've seen the same spreadsheet attached to 5 different emails. You just can't deduplicate that. You also know that as many of the tech tools that you want to throw at it, that email and all those identical copies of that spreadsheet will keep coming up in your review. You can propagate results across those fields, so at least then you just need to look at privilege with that family of documents. That was a big matter, and we used every tool at our disposal. One of the other things was helping the client with their workflows. Rather than us running through all the review and then passing 1 million documents off to the client, we were providing weekly tranches of documents, so they were able to start their second-level review faster. They were able to gain insights into their data that bit faster as well. It was really useful as well, that feedback loop. Much as we had instructions from the client, the briefing that we received from them was 90-odd pages plus annexes, so pretty meaty. Sometimes you really only know what you've got in materials once you get in there and start digging around in them. And some of the instructions that we had from the clients change as a result of that. There are documents in there that they hadn't necessarily anticipated, documents with set date ranges. They've had to change instructions and say, well, that date range that we said was determinative actually should just be indicative and should just be a general guideline there. And that's fine because we're doing those tranche releases. It means that you can update the instructions, you can rebrief the team on that particular note. Then you can make sure that the review the client gets at the end is exactly what they want, with minimal rework for either party. We've been working with a leading bank on their responses to various notices from the ATO, and they've been coming through at a rate of, once a month. Some have been larger, some have been smaller, all with very, very tight deadlines. I feel that the regulatory bodies have all decided that regardless of the size of their request, they maybe still want a very tight deadline on that. But that's something that, because we've retained many of our team, when the new instruction comes in, when the new notice comes in, we can brief the team in 2 hours or so they can just get moving on the data. For regulatory responses, as an example, it's pretty straightforward. Often there's not as much difference in the scope as between, for example, different litigated matters. You'd have completely different subject matters, for example, between a construction case or a contract dispute. But for regulatory responses, our team are familiar with the client now, so they can get the new process, the new notice, sent across. We'll also receive a new briefing note from the client, which will have a general who's who are the custodians, and if there's any primary custodians. We might also need to review those documents first, so we'll receive that and then some guidance on the notes. Again, to make sure that the litigation is wholly owned by the legal team instructing, and that we're there to provide assistance on it. Talking about those complicated matters, we would work with the client to develop more substantial briefing notes. And as I mentioned, we've had ones before that have been 90-odd pages, so really going into depth in things like disclosure categories, dramatis personae, so you know who's who. To know that if you see an email from Dave without sign-off, Dave's actually the CFO, and anything from him is potentially confidential, and it should be treated with kid gloves. But really it's working directly with the legal team to help give the review team a better understanding of what the matter is. Who the client is, how they got in this position, what the dispute is, and what the drivers are for the parties as well.